Hi, I'm Reb Myron. I'm a minister through Pathways of Light, and I've been a Course in Miracles student for 40 years. I'm going through the lessons this year, asking Jesus to clarify for me as I've done in the past, and then I write from that clarity. And that's what I'm sharing with you today. So let's get started. Today, we're looking at lesson 349. It says, today I let Christ's vision look upon all things for me and judge them not, but give each one a miracle of love instead. So I would liberate all things I see and give to them the freedom that I seek. For thus do I obey the law of love and give what I would find and make my own. It will be given me because I have chosen it as the gift I want to give. Father, your gifts are mine. Each one that I accept brings me a miracle to give. And giving as I would receive, I learned your healing miracles belong to me. Our Father knows our needs. He gives us grace to meet them all. And so we trust in him to send us miracles to bless the world and heal our minds as we return to him. It only makes sense to give what I want to receive. One day last year, the contractor came by to finish the work I needed to be done on the outside of my house. I was excited to get this done so that now all the damage would be done that was done by the hurricanes last year would be repaired. After I paid him and he had left, I had to put some potted plants back into place. It was then I noticed that he had done one part very poorly. My first inclination was to feel frustrated and worried that I would have to pay twice to get this done. I felt angry that he had done this. That reaction lasted only a couple of minutes. I have no desire to make anyone guilty. To do so would be what we used to call instant karma and would come back on me. A Course in Miracles says that what we give, we receive. And what I want to receive are forgiveness and love. So that's what I chose. I texted the contractor and told him my concerns. He promised to be back the next day to make it right and apologize for the error. Even if he had not responded positively to my concerns, I would still not have gone back to ego thinking. It makes no sense to attack or defend. And so I don't do that anymore. I don't do it even when the ego mind insists that defense is called for. In this case, I was able to look past the apparent situation to see with Christ's vision. It takes vigilance and consistency to disregard ego reactions. My Pathways of Light prayer, I say each time I start work on one of their courses, has this sentence: I am willing to let go of judgments about myself and others and see the innocence beyond the circumstances and events. This was the choice I made. I let the Holy Spirit correct my thinking and experienced the miracle of a healed mind. It was all done quickly because I practice it consistently. Our Father knows our needs. He gives us grace to meet them all. This is just one example of how I am cared for by my loving Father. I needed a way to go from fear to love, and his grace was given me. Of course, I had to do my part. I had to be willing to let go of the grievance, and I had to trust the process in which what I give is given to me. I do trust, and my trust has been well-founded. So how do I look with Christ's vision? Well, I look without judgment. And in not judging, I bless what I see with the miracle of love. Faced with a difficult situation, I have a choice about how to see it. If I judge a situation as bad and wish it was different, I will suffer. Thus, the root cause of the distress will remain unhealed, and so invite more of the same. If, on the other hand, I don't judge, if I look with clear eyes and see that this is a neutral situation, waiting for me to decide what it means, I can let the Holy Spirit judge it for me. The Holy Spirit's only judgment is one of love. In the Song of Prayer, Jesus tells us that true prayer is a stepping aside, a letting go, a quiet time of listening and loving. I was reminded of this as I read that our Father knows our needs. I used to entreat God to give me what I was missing in my life, but I eventually learned that God gave me all I need in my creation. So now I simply lay my concerns on the altar, knowing He gives me the grace to meet them all. Then with empty hands and a glad heart, I spend the rest of the prayer loving God and accepting His love. In this lesson, Jesus also shares something we need to know about receiving when He says, "And giving as I would receive, I learn your healing miracles belong to me." Repeatedly in the Course, we are told that giving is receiving. Give what you want to receive. That is the way you receive. And at the same time, it is the way you learn that we are one. Regina's tips on what is a miracle are excellent. So I'm going to read them slowly, and so that we can both take them in. And if you want to go back to it and read them again or keep them for yourself, then just go to my website. The link will be in the comments, and you can find them there in this lesson. Okay, here's what she said. Let's review what we've already contemplated about the miracle in order to look at the miracle as a whole. Number one, a miracle is a shift in perception, which is a shift in our way of seeing and experiencing. It isn't an actual change. Number two, the miracle could be called a shift in meaning. It gently shifts away from the valueless, which is temporary appearance, and towards a valuable, which is reality. That means circumstances that we saw as meaningful before gradually have less meaning, while awareness, which once had no meaning at all, becomes more present and centrally meaningful. Number three, the core shift that occurs with the miracle is a shift from self-centered existence and way of perceiving to experience that is not centered in the self. Existence not centered in the self is called true perception, because perception is not colored by the self's personal biases. This core shift may be dramatic or may be gradual, the culmination of many smaller shifts. Number four, because the self-centered self will attempt to cling to its self-centered nature, it is important for the individual to have a desire to go beyond the self-centered self and faith that existence beyond the self-centered self is more valuable than existence as a self-centered self. Number five, the way to enable the miracle is to abide to the best of one's ability as the unaffected self. Being unaffected is synonymous with not being self-centered or not believing self-centered thoughts, perceptions, and feelings. The Loving All method is a simple, gentle, and clear method for abiding as the unaffected self. When we abide as the unaffected self, we do not cling to the self-centered self. This enables the miracle because we are no longer fighting against the miracle. Number six, The miracle is both personal and impersonal. It is personal because the medium of the miracle is the only one who experiences a shift directly. It is impersonal because a shift in perception causes material effects through the creative principle. The one who experienced the miracle may or may not witness the material effects. 7. People often confuse a material effect with the miracle by thinking the material effect is the miracle. The miracle is the shift in perception. It is permanent and irreversible. The effect of the shift is not the miracle. It is a temporary appearance. The spiritual aspirant helps in the process of shifting from self-centered existence to existence that is not self-centered by being aware of his own process, participating in it fully and prayerfully, asking for clarity, guidance, and shifts. Number 9, to continually seek advancement on a journey from the known to the unknown takes faith. If one will have faith and take the journey, miracles and their effects will reinforce faith. This results in confidence, which enables one to go further into the unknown. So the next we'll look at a past entry. Today, everything I look at is going to be loved. Remember, this is a past entry that I think it was like several years ago. So today, everything I look at is going to be loved. That is, I will see it as innocent and perfect, regardless of what the body's eyes show me. Well, that's a plan anyway. Very likely what is going to happen is that I'm going to notice that sometimes I'm judging, and then I'm going to practice this lesson. Here are some things that Kate Grease shared with me one time when I was asking her for help with this. She said, the image is projected from my confused thinking, not his. Everything is in my mind and can only be corrected there. See no bodies, just pure innocent spirit. The Course says that there are no people out there. They are all being projected by the unconscious guilt. By the way, that includes the body I think of as me. Seeing the innocence heals the misperceptions of the ego mind. What I love about this statement is its simplicity. It cuts through the story and goes to the heart of the only problem we have. We think we're separated from God, and so we're guilty. From the guilt, we project the world we see with all its bodies and all these stories that all end in death. So really, the stories and the bodies are not the problem. They are the effect of the problem. They are just guilt projected outward and seen as if they were real and happening and matter. This keeps us very busy for eons of time, and so we never get around to addressing the real problem. In this way, the ego mind does an excellent job of keeping the story going. There's a place in the Course where Jesus tells us that the ego wants to kill us. I heard Nook Sanchez say that the ego wants us dead before we can wake up to its plan and choose love instead. Then we just turn around and here we are back in another story that we spend a lifetime trying to fix just so we can die and do it all over again. So far, it's been working, but Jesus is giving us a way out of the endless loop of false thinking that keeps us focused on the story rather than the escape from the story. The problem we see everywhere, regardless of the form it takes, is guilt. The solution is love. It is choosing to see the innocence beyond the story. I'm amazed at how often I see guilt rather than innocence. It pervades every story in my life. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised, since this is the way I've used ego mind to keep me in the dark. And creator that I am, it is only natural that I would have done a good job of it. For eons, I have looked for and found guilt. I think of it as looking through a guilt filter so that everything I see looks like guilt. Here's an example. I have a plumbing leak and I need to get it fixed. I've been putting it off because I don't feel competent to do it myself, and I'm not sure who I can call to fix it. Calling a plumber would be really expensive, and I'm pretty sure I know someone who could do it for me. I thought about my son-in-law who's fixed things for me before. I was going to send him a text and ask him if he could find the time, but my daughter mentioned he was changing an engine in a car this weekend and was totally absorbed in that job. It didn't feel right asking him to drop everything and work on my stuff, so I didn't send him the text. This morning when I got up, I saw the leak was worse, and I started worrying about the cabinet under the sink being damaged. The first feeling I noticed following the fear was resentment that my son-in-law didn't fix this for me. Mind you, he doesn't even know about the problem, and certainly even if he did know about it, he's not obligated to do this for me. But the ego always sees guilt. Its answer to all problems is to discover who is guilty. Little guilt thoughts like this show up in my mind all the time, it seems. The good news is that I mostly don't believe them. And when I do, I look at them with the Holy Spirit. It seems like they always stem from fear, just like the plumbing problem was causing me fear, and the ego's automatic response is to find someone to blame, someone to make guilty. Here's another response from Kate to my questions. That's how my mind was healed through practicing this. Seeing the face of Christ in all our brothers heals my mind back to pure Christ mind. The mind knows no difference between out there and in here. If all are seen as perfect and innocent, then my mind is perfect and innocent, and the ego falls away gently. The ego cannot exist in a mind of innocent perception. So I perceived my son-in-law as guilty, and the solution is to recognize this was just an ego response to fear, and that he is completely innocent. I do the same thing with all these little ego guilt bombs. Instead of letting them explode into something messy, I disarm them with the truth, and they just fizzle out. Sometimes it's a little harder because I have projected a better guilt story, and it really looks like someone is guilty. In a situation like that, I can point to their behavior as proof of guilt. But then I remember that the guilt came first. And what I'm seeing is not reality, but just a projection of that guilt. This reminder can sometimes derail the ego's attempt to reinforce guilt in the mind. Sometimes I get caught up in my most recent projection of guilt, and then I have to pull myself out of it. But all of it's good practice, whether it's easy to do or whether it feels difficult. The point is, there's nothing out there to forgive and nothing out there to correct. There is only my mind to be healed. I ask to see with true perception, and the more often I do this, the easier it is to go there very quickly. This is how Kate says she did it. The guilt is undone by 1, holding the perfection and innocence of all brothers, and 2, truly realizing I am not a body, but pure spirit, perfect, whole, and complete. It needs to be practiced before it becomes fully known as truth by the mind. Sometimes I feel discouraged when I notice yet again that I'm judging and seeing guilt, and worse, believing in the guilt. But as Kate says, seeing the innocence is something we need to practice. Without practice, it is just words in the mind, something understood intellectually, maybe a concept that sounds like something we want, but it does not become truly known without practice. Realizing this, I can practice all day and be glad of the opportunities. Thank you so much for joining me in this lesson. If you found it helpful, then please like it. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. And thanks to all of you who have already subscribed and everyone who comes daily and shares these lessons with me. It's an act of love, an act of joining, and very healing. I will be back tomorrow with another lesson.